Russian propagandists were exposed. Yesterday, during the so-called Unity Day celebration in the Russian Federation, children were allowed to approach Putin during the festivities. One girl, apparently not according to plan, asked the president of the Russian Federation a question. Here's the video, which is now being actively deleted from everywhere, but obviously it's too late.
Kira,
what did you give me?
a cookie, notebooks, and a thermos from the Committee of Families of Fatherland Warriors.
And how did the children get allowed near?
Well, my uncle's at the front now. He was wounded in the arm, was in a hospital, but got no treatment. Now they're sending him on a mission. And I'd really like him to be transferred to a decent hospital in Russia.
You'll find him, okay? I have yours. Absolutely. Uncle, thank you for talking. Absolutely, I'll transfer your uncle. Even the court reporter, Pavel Zarubin, who follows Putin, cut out this segment. He's a court correspondent, Putin's propagandist, who follows him everywhere. And then he deleted it from his Telegram channel too. Why? Because the scandal was apparent. The girl is providing personal information. Anton Fissura, that's what she says. Anton Fissura. My name is Kira. Her father, her uncle was wounded in the special military operation and was supposed to be treated in a hospital, but now he's being sent on some mission. Please, Vladimir Putin, transfer him to a normal hospital in Russia. And I have no doubt that everyone around them got a dressing down for this. And Putin has probably already forgotten about this special military operation hero Anton Fissura and this child. But the fact itself is quite interesting. They began to spread the idea this was a fully staged propaganda story. That's because the girl is a ward of the Committee of Families of Warriors of the Fatherland. Everything was supposed to be coordinated. The committee was to prepare several children with questions they were meant to ask Vladimir Putin. However, the girl proved to be genuine, presenting a legitimate problem, posing sincere questions, and possessing a truly authentic personal background. It was discovered that her surname is Pimenova, and this Pimenova's father was lost because he was mobilized and subsequently killed. He was liquidated, let's say, since he was a serviceman, in Horlivka, within the self-proclaimed DPR in 2024. Now she's asking for her uncle, who is also obviously being sent to the slaughter, and this is a bad story for this entire beautiful backdrop for all of them. This wonderful patriotic backdrop. Why did this happen? Because Putin is forced to stoop to such a low level and engage in explaining to his own people why they are not being fully treated in hospitals and are being sent off to the front lines often before they have fully recovered. And who would have thought that someone would rush to Putin's defense? No one, obviously. The so-called FSB Patriarch Kirill really laid into Putin's personal security, scolding them furiously and saying such unprofessional behavior was unacceptable. Who let that child get so close? And not because the child, turned out not to be a terrorist or an extremist, but simply asked such a question. This is because it was rumored that this child might have been sent by UKRONAZIS, or perhaps by certain British intelligence agents. She might have had an improvised bomb concealed somewhere, and our leader could have suffered greatly as a result. To which Putin's personal security detail already responded, basically, rolling their eyes and saying, no, we had everything under control. But what the child actually said, well, let them sort that out there. The press service for the president of the Russian Federation, and the significant discussion that actually arose following the unfolding of this entire story. Here, by the way, is this very girl and her now deceased father who tragically perished for unknown reasons in the Ukrainian city of Horlivka, which was, unfortunately, occupied in 2024. So the discussion that is now unfolding in the aftermath of this obvious blunder is, what exactly should be done with these young people in the Russian Federation who, even at such a tender age, allow themselves such a significant degree of independence? In the future, they are all a potential threat to the regime. These are terrorists, extremists, and individuals displaying evident intolerance. And a deluge of ideas has emerged. Specifically, within the State Duma, a proposal was put forward suggesting that all children should be dispatched to specialized facilities located within factories. The rationale was for them to observe other individuals at work, rather than squandering their time aimlessly in food courts located near supermarkets, shopping centers, and other such places. In short, everyone to the factory, and these gatherings near supermarkets are supposedly because there's no alternative. The idea belongs to a certain Deputy Tolmachev. There's also another interesting idea being discussed about what to do with all these children. So in Yekaterinburg, the regional governor and his administration put forward the idea to conduct a research study specifically focused on tolerance, extremism, and terrorism among adolescents, correct? A local publication has reported on this. And here I must quote, the study, which is named Studying the Social Development Levels of Contemporary Teenagers as a Resource for Extremism Prevention, is planned to encompass 500 8th grade students. How old is an 8th grader? Is that around 13 or 14 years old? From 14 schools in the city, participants will be asked to fill out a questionnaire with at least 20 questions. 150,000 rubles have been allocated for the project's implementation. And it's also specified that in May, in 2025, the administration had already ordered a sociological analysis of the internet content of Yekaterinburg residents. Researchers were supposed to study the online activity of 1,500 social media and forum users to identify extremist materials, assess the citizens' readiness for protests, and develop measures to counter extremist content. So obviously the children must be taught to ask only questions that are convenient for the president of the Russian Federation. All other behaviors, such as we sing what we want, we play what we want, are inappropriate. Oh, by the way, how is Diana Loginova getting along these days? Exactly, there you have it. That's the face of extremism. So, between the 8th grade and the age of 18, when students are graduating from school, there's Diana Loginova, who, I'll remind you, is currently in a pre-trial detention center for singing noise MC and Monotoshka songs by a St. Petersburg metro station. She's 18 years old, and that's precisely the point of this discussion. She is currently being prosecuted under the extremism article, this child, at 18 years old, for singing some song that someone didn't like, songs by foreign agents. And then, just yesterday, this girl showed up, probably not yet an 8th grader, but more like a 5th or 6th grader, and she outright confronted Vladimir Putin about someone being sent to the slaughter. Can you believe that? Well, I mean, we can joke and even laugh about it now, but the actual situation is quite complicated and not at all simple. I've already done these reviews about Diana Loginova, about the guitarists from the band Stop Time, and I said that this is more than serious. Any form of protest, any progressive thought, and so on and so forth, can arise from the most unexpected places, precisely where you would least anticipate it. The Russian Federation has pursued a course of labeling all more or less mainstream artists as foreign agents, those who, forgive the term, are, broadly speaking, speaking out against the war. So today, just so you understand, the actions of St. Petersburg's Governor Beglov, who took the main blow to his political image and got involved in this dispute with these kids near the metro station in St. Petersburg, right, putting them in pre-trial detention centers because the Kremlin doesn't demand it, the Federal Security Service doesn't demand it, they try not to comment on anything at all, right? But there in St. Petersburg, this fight against liberalism is taking place. So today, one of these liberal performers, the band DDT, Yuri Shevchuk, just straight up supported the girl from the stage during a performance. Shevchuk, you can find a lot of videos of him sitting in front of Putin back in like 2000 something when Putin was sending planes to Georgia. And how does he argue with Putin? Shevchuk, who's not in jail. Shevchuk, well, he's no Alla Pugacheva, but he's Shevchuk. Shevchuk, who states, "We are throwing our support behind the band Stop Time." Take a look. All right, we won't listen to the song right now, but it's just like that, you understand? Where was Loginova, whom nobody knew? Don't touch her, no problems. But now, where's Shevchuk? Just like that. One decision, perhaps a very patriotic one, or something like that. A very sycophantic one, intended to please the Kremlin, is now sparking more than just a discussion, it's a new debate. So, in Yekaterinburg, they will surely be searching for potential extremists amongst students who are potential extremists. What will happen to them next? This is like Spielberg's film Minority Report, a preemptive story where the goal is to locate the killer before they've even committed a crime. Well, this is pure fantasy and an alternative reality, where the Russian Federation, in fact, is right now. And what can be done about it? Well, obviously, handcuffs are meant for adults, specifically 18-year-olds, because you simply can't put handcuffs on an 8-year-old, can you? But if they had the power, my friends, they absolutely would, and would likely take pleasure in doing so.